Welcome. The night outside is freezing. Snow falls without sound. Wind moves through trees. Inside a small van, a soft orange light glows against fogged windows. This is not a house. It is a metal shell on wheels. The temperature outside has dropped below zero. Inside, someone is preparing for sleep. You might wonder how this is possible, how a person stays warm enough to rest through a winter night in what is essentially a metal box. How they wake in the morning instead of suffering through darkness. How something so small and cold becomes a place of comfort. Tonight we're going to see how people sleep in vans and campers during the coldest months of the year. We will move slowly through insulation and heat sources, through bedding and nighttime routines. We will follow the preparation that happens before sunset and the stillness that arrives after dark. This is not about survival. It is about the ordinary night. The systems that make rest possible when frost forms on metal and breath becomes visible in air. Let the day settle behind you. We begin with the choice itself. People sleep in vans and campers during winter for different reasons. Some do it because circumstances require it. Others choose it deliberately. Both find something unexpected in the practice. The necessity side is straightforward. Seasonal workers follow employment to cold places, ski resort staff park in designated areas near mountain bases. Construction crews working winter projects live in campers at job sites. People between housing situations wait out winter months in vehicles because rent has become impossible or timing has placed them there. These are practical arrangements. The vehicle is shelter. Winter is the season that must be endured. But there is another group, people who could be elsewhere but choose to stay. Photographers who follow winter light, retirees testing the boundaries of comfort, remote workers who want to see what January looks like from a forest road, people seeking something that summer travel does not provide. They describe winter van life differently than summer. Summer is movement and open doors and sun-warmed metal. Winter is stillness. The season demands that you stay inside. Social obligations fade. The early darkness and cold create natural boundaries. You eat dinner at 5 because it has been dark for an hour. You settle into your sleeping bag at 7 because there is nothing else calling you outward. This enforced simplicity becomes appealing. The van is small. Your needs are reduced to what fits. Evening routines become rituals because there is time for them and nothing competing for attention. There is also the cocoon effect. Humans find comfort in small enclosed spaces during harsh weather. This is not romantic notion. It is evolutionary response. When conditions outside are hostile, a small warm space feels safer than a large one. The walls are closer. The warmth is concentrated. You can touch every surface from where you sit. Winter van dwellers report feeling more connected to their space than summer travelers do. In summer, the van is a base you leave frequently. In winter, it becomes your world. You know every corner. You understand how temperature changes throughout the day, which areas stay warmest, where condensation forms first. Many describe sleeping better than they do in houses. They attribute this to several things. Complete darkness. The white noise of rain on the roof or wind against metal. The security of a smaller space. The physical tiredness that comes from existing in cold. There's also the satisfaction of creating comfort in unlikely circumstances. A house comes with warmth built in. You adjust a thermostat. In a van, you build that comfort yourself. You install insulation. You choose a heat source. You develop routines that work. When you settle into sleep and the space is warm and the night is cold, there is quiet pride in that. The winter landscape itself changes the experience. Snow simplifies everything visually. Trees become shapes. Sounds are muffled. The world contracts. This external simplicity mirrors the internal simplicity of the space. Scandinavian countries have words for the feeling that winter van dwellers describe. Gezelligheid in Dutch, hygge in Danish. Both point toward the particular coziness that arrives when outside conditions are harsh and inside conditions are carefully tended. A small warm place becomes more than shelter. It becomes the center of experience. This is not about adventure in the summer sense. It is quieter than that. Winter camping eliminates the excess. You are not exploring in the way summer allows. You are staying put, watching weather, tending your small system. The satisfaction comes from that tending. People return to winter van life even after difficult nights. They talk about earned comfort. The coziness means more because of what surrounds it. They describe a connection to season and weather that feels absent in temperature-controlled houses. They notice the cold in a way that makes warmth tangible. Some begin as a test and continue for years. Others try one winter and return to traditional housing, but speak of the experience as clarifying. It showed them how little space they actually needed, how simple evening routines could be, how satisfying it felt to understand exactly how their shelter worked. The appeal is not universal. Many people find the idea uncomfortable or impractical, but for those drawn to it, winter van dwelling offers something specific: simplicity, rhythm, the meditative quality of long, dark nights in small spaces, a particular kind of peace that arrives when you are warm and dry and the world outside is cold, and the distance between those two states is just a thin wall that you insulated yourself. Winter nights are long. In northern regions during deep winter, darkness arrives at 4 in the afternoon. It does not lift until 8 the next morning. 16 hours of night. In a house, this darkness is fought. Lights stay on. Rooms remain bright. Activities continue regardless of what is happening outside. The separation between interior and exterior is almost complete. In a van, the relationship is different. The space is small enough that maintaining full brightness feels wrong. Most winter campers dim their lights as evening arrives. They use small lamps, warm LED strips, candles when ventilation allows. The light becomes softer as darkness deepens outside. This is not about saving battery, though that matters. It is about matching the space to the season. Bright light in a small area during long darkness creates discomfort. It feels artificial in a way that it does not in larger spaces. Dimming the light makes the space feel more settled. The size of the van changes how darkness is experienced. In a house, you can move between rooms, change environments, shift your relationship to the space. In a van, you are in one room. The space does not change. You do. This creates a different kind of evening. There is reading, quiet tasks, preparation for the next day. Meals that take time because there is time to give them. The activities are simple because the space limits complexity. Many winter campers describe this as meditative, not in a formal practice sense, in the sense that the evening unfolds slowly and there is nothing pulling attention elsewhere. The phone might work or might not, depending on location. There is no television in most vans. The entertainment is limited to what you brought or what you create. This sounds restrictive. In practice, many find it relieving. Decisions are reduced. The small space has already decided what is possible. You work within that. The limitations become structure. The cocoon effect intensifies during storms. When snow is falling or rain is heavy, the sense of enclosure deepens. The van becomes the only warm, dry place in a cold, wet world. This is not metaphor. It is literal truth. Everything outside the metal walls is hostile to comfort. Everything inside is tended toward warmth. People report a particular satisfaction during these nights. The storm is loud. The van rocks slightly in wind. But inside, you are dry. The sleeping bag is warm. The heater runs its steady cycle. There is tea or soup. The contrast between interior and exterior is at its maximum. Psychologically, humans respond to this contrast. Small, warm spaces during harsh conditions trigger comfort responses. The research on refuge spaces confirms this. We are drawn to enclosed areas when weather is threatening. Caves, alcoves, small rooms with low ceilings. The van is the mobile version of this. Winter van dwellers also report sleeping longer and deeper. They attribute this to several factors. The darkness is more complete than in houses. No streetlights, no light pollution unless parked in cities. Blackout curtains are standard in vans, and winter makes them unnecessary. The world is already dark. The cold also contributes. The body works to maintain temperature. This is tiring in a way that is not dramatic but accumulates. Evening arrives and fatigue follows. Sleep comes easier. The sounds help. Rain on metal is loud but rhythmic. Snow is silent. Wind creates gentle rocking. These become sleep cues. The sounds mean you are inside and sheltered. The brain associates them with rest. There is also the absence of disruption. In a house, there are rooms to move between, tasks that could be done. The possibility of productivity. In a van in winter, productivity is limited. The cold discourages unnecessary movement. The darkness removes visual distraction. What remains is rest. This enforced stillness is what many winter campers seek. Modern life is full of option and obligation. The winter van removes both. You cannot go out easily because it is cold. You cannot do much inside because space is limited. What remains is presence. Some describe this as clarifying. The small space and long nights strip away excess. What matters becomes obvious. Warmth, dryness, rest, food. These are the priorities. Everything else is secondary. Others find it challenging at first. The stillness feels like boredom, the early darkness like confinement. But many report that after several nights, the rhythm takes hold. The body adjusts. Evening becomes a time to slow rather than a time to fill. The van becomes a world, not in a metaphorical sense, in a practical one. It contains what you need. The boundaries are clear. Outside is cold. Inside is warm. The simplicity is not limiting. It is organizing. This is why people speak of winter van nights fondly. Even when they were difficult, the difficulty was clear. The solution was immediate. You were cold, so you added layers. You were hungry, so you cooked. You were tired, so you slept. The directness of cause and effect is rare in modern life. The cocoon effect is strongest in deep winter, January, February. When cold is sustained and darkness is long, the van becomes the constant. Everything else changes around it. Weather shifts, locations change, but the interior remains your controlled environment. People return to this. Even those who move back to houses remember the winters in vans as a particular kind of time. Quiet, simple, focused. The long nights were not empty. They were full of small comforts that mattered because of what surrounded them. The metal walls were thin. The cold was close. But inside, there was warmth. And that warmth was enough. A van without preparation is not a shelter. It is a metal box. In freezing temperatures, it becomes something more specific. It becomes a conductor. Metal pulls heat from warm air and releases it outward. This happens constantly. The thinner the metal, the faster the exchange. A vehicle body is thin. On a night when outside air reaches 10 degrees, the inside of an unprepared van will approach the same temperature within hours. This is not gradual cooling. This is active heat loss. The metal shell does something else. It gathers cold and brings it inward. Touch the interior wall of a van on a winter night. The surface feels colder than the air around it. This is not illusion. The metal has become the outside temperature. It radiates that cold into the space. A person sleeping near that wall loses body heat to it, not through air, through radiation. The warm body sends heat toward the cold surface. The cold surface accepts it and conducts it outside. This happens whether the person touches the wall or not. This is why people wake cold, even when wrapped in blankets. The blankets trap air, but they cannot stop the body from radiating heat toward frigid surfaces nearby. There is a second problem. It arrives more quietly but matters as much. Moisture. A sleeping person exhales water vapor with every breath. A pint of water, sometimes more, released into air over 8 hours. In a house, this disperses. In a van, it has nowhere to go. It fills the small space. It touches cold metal walls. And then it condenses. Condensation appears as droplets on windows first, then on walls, then on ceiling. In severe cold, it freezes into frost patterns. When morning comes and heat returns, the frost melts. Water runs down walls. It collects in seams. It dampens bedding, clothing, anything touching or near the metal. This wetness is not just discomfort. It is cold made worse. Damp fabric loses its insulating ability. Damp air feels colder than dry air at the same temperature. Moisture becomes cold's ally. Some people discover this the first night. They pack warm blankets and a heater. They assume this will be enough. They fall asleep warm, but by 3 in the morning, they wake shivering. The blankets feel thinner. The air feels wetter. Droplets hang from the ceiling. The metal walls glisten. They have heated the air, but they have done nothing about the metal. The vehicle shell is not insulation. It is the opposite. It is a barrier that works against warmth. Every surface is a pathway for heat to escape. Every window is an opening in thermal defense. Every rivet and seam is a bridge for cold to travel inward. This is the fundamental challenge. Not warming a space, but creating a space that holds warmth. Not adding heat, but preventing heat from bleeding away through metal skin. Understanding this changes everything. A heater alone will not make winter sleep possible. It will warm air briefly, but the air will touch cold metal and lose that warmth. The cycle will repeat endlessly. The heater will run constantly. Fuel will vanish, and still cold will seep in. The solution is not more heat. It is separation. The metal must be covered. Its surface must be blocked from contact with interior air. A buffer must exist between cold conductor and warm space. This buffer is insulation, but the word suggests something simple. The reality is more specific. Insulation must do 2 things simultaneously. It must trap air in tiny pockets, preventing convection currents that carry heat away, and it must raise the temperature of the interior surface above the dew point of the air inside. This second task matters more than most realize. If the interior wall surface stays below dew point, moisture will condense regardless of how much insulation exists. The water will appear, it will freeze, it will melt. The cycle will continue. Successful winter preparation addresses both problems. It creates thermal resistance, and it prevents condensation. These are not the same goal. They require different materials and different approaches, but both must be solved. The metal shell is the enemy in winter, but it is also the structure. It cannot be removed. It must be transformed, not into something warm, but into something that no longer steals warmth away. This transformation happens in autumn, before the first freeze, before snow arrives. It requires time, materials, planning. It is not dramatic work. It is patient work, quiet work. The kind that shows no visible result until the first cold night arrives. Then the difference becomes clear. The interior wall, when touched, feels neutral, not warm, but not freezing. The windows no longer drip. The air stays dry. The heater runs for 20 minutes and stops. The warmth remains. The metal shell is still there, but it has been changed from conductor to container, from liability to structure. This is what makes winter sleep possible. Not the heater, not the blankets, but the barrier that finally separates inside from outside. Preparation begins in September or October, before frost, before the first night when breath becomes visible. There's a narrow window when the work is still comfortable, when hands do not stiffen, when materials remain pliable. Some people spend weeks, others spend months. The work is not rushed. First comes removal. Most vans arrive with interior paneling, carpet, plastic trim. All of it must come out. The metal ribs of the vehicle must be exposed. This is not for access. It is so the person can see every surface that will face winter air. Every rib, every beam, every inch of metal that will later conduct cold inward. Bare metal reveals the architecture. Vertical ribs run from floor to ceiling every foot or two. Horizontal supports cross behind them. Between these, shallow cavities wait. Some are 2 inches deep, some are 3. These cavities will hold insulation. The choice of material varies. Some use foam board, rigid pink or blue sheets cut to fit between ribs. Others use spray foam, filling cavities with expanding insulation that hardens in place. Still others choose sheep's wool, cutting bats to size and pressing them into gaps. Each material offers something different. Foam board is precise. Spray foam is complete. Sheep's wool manages moisture naturally. There is no single correct answer. There is only what works for the person, the van, the budget. The work requires patience. Each cavity must be measured. Each piece must be cut to fit without gaps. Gaps allow air movement. Air movement allows heat loss. The goal is continuous coverage, not perfect, but thorough. Windows receive different treatment. They cannot be filled. They must remain transparent. But glass is among the worst insulators. A single pane of window glass loses heat faster than a metal wall. The solution is layers, not outside, inside. Reflective fabric, often Insul Bright or Reflectix, cut to fit each window exactly. These covers attach with magnets, Velcro, or tension rods. They look like padded silver rectangles. During the day, most people remove them to let light in. At night, they go back up. The reflective layer does not stop conduction. It reduces radiation. It sends heat back into the space rather than letting it escape through glass. The difference is measurable. A window covered at night might be 20 degrees warmer on the interior surface than an uncovered one. Some people add a second layer, fabric curtains over the reflective material. This creates a dead air space. The air trapped between layers becomes insulation itself. Still air does not transfer heat well. Moving air does. The curtain stops movement. There's a persistent temptation to seal everything completely, to close every vent, to block every gap, to make the van airtight. This is a mistake. Ventilation is not optional. It is necessary. A person sleeping in a sealed van will fill it with moisture, carbon dioxide, and warmth. The moisture will condense. The carbon dioxide will accumulate. The warmth will create a humidity problem that insulation cannot solve. Most modern winter vans include roof vents. These crack open slightly even in winter. The opening is small, but it allows moist air to escape and fresh air to enter. This exchange prevents condensation more effectively than any amount of insulation. The balance is delicate. Too much ventilation and warmth escapes. Too little and moisture accumulates. The correct amount is just enough to keep interior surfaces dry without making the heater run constantly. Floor and ceiling receive the most attention. Heat rises, cold sinks. The ceiling is where warmth gathers and tries to escape. The floor is where cold settles and radiates upward into the sleeping space. Many converters place thick foam board on the floor before building the interior, 1 inch, sometimes 2. This breaks contact between feet and cold metal. It also stops the floor itself from becoming a cold radiator at night. The ceiling gets similar treatment, foam between the ribs, then a layer of fabric or thin paneling to cover it. The result is a surface that stays closer to room temperature, even when outside air is well below freezing. Some people insulate door frames, wheel wells, every surface they can reach. Others focus only on the main living space, accepting that the cab will stay cold. There is no standard. There is only what each person decides matters. The work is slow. Cutting, fitting, sealing, testing. The van begins to look like a construction site. Pieces of foam, rolls of tape, tools scattered. Then, gradually, it begins to look like an interior again. Walls go up over insulation. Paneling covers foam. The metal disappears behind wood or fabric. By the time the work finishes, the van looks almost the same as before. The change is invisible. But on the first cold night, it becomes obvious. The interior no longer echoes outside temperature. It holds its own. The walls, when touched, feel neutral. The windows no longer sweat immediately. The small heater warms the space and then stops because the warmth stays. This is what insulation does. Not create heat, but trap it. Not add warmth, but prevent loss. The work happens once. The result lasts years. And every winter night afterward, the person sleeping inside benefits from hours spent in autumn, patiently covering metal, carefully sealing gaps, quietly building a barrier between inside and out. The van is still metal, but it is no longer a conductor. It has become a container, and that makes all the difference. Windows are the weakest point in a van's winter defense. They cannot be insulated like walls. Glass conducts cold directly into the living space. Single-pane windows found in most vans and campers offer almost no resistance to freezing temperatures outside. The cold radiates inward. You can feel it from feet away. Winter campers. Address this through layering, not permanent modification. Temporary barriers built each evening and removed each morning. The first layer goes closest to the glass. Reflective material works well here. Reflectix, a foil-faced bubble wrap, appears in many vans. Some use emergency blankets, others cut reflective car sunshades to fit their window dimensions exactly. This layer reflects heat back into the living space. It also creates a thin air gap between itself and the glass. Air is a poor conductor. Even a quarter inch of trapped air slows heat loss. The second layer adds insulation. Foam board cut to window size. Fabric panels stuffed with synthetic fill. Even thick wool blankets. This layer does the actual work of blocking heat transfer. The thicker this layer, the warmer the space remains. Some winter campers build fabric panels with pockets. They slide foam or insulation into these pockets each autumn. Come spring, they remove the fill and wash the fabric. The system lasts for years. The third layer is optional. It faces inward. This layer serves appearance and comfort. Fabric that matches the interior. Something soft to touch. Many skip this layer entirely. Function matters more than appearance when you're trying to stay warm enough to sleep. These panels must fit precisely. Gaps around edges allow cold to seep through. Some use magnets sewn into fabric edges that stick to the metal van walls. Others use suction cups. A few use careful friction fits that press firmly into window frames. The goal is complete coverage without permanent attachment. During the day, these panels come down. Natural light enters. The world becomes visible. The space feels less confined. At sunset, the panels go back up. This evening ritual becomes automatic. As light fades, windows get covered. The space transforms from open to enclosed. The van becomes a sealed, warm chamber, but not completely sealed. Ventilation remains essential, even in temperatures well below freezing. People and heaters consume oxygen. Bodies and breath release moisture. Without fresh air exchange, condensation forms on every cold surface. Within hours, windows drip with water. Walls grow damp. Bedding absorbs moisture. This moisture is more than uncomfortable. In extreme cold, it freezes. Ice forms on walls. The van's interior becomes a freezing cave. Worse, without ventilation, carbon dioxide builds up. Propane and diesel heaters consume oxygen. Sealed spaces become dangerous. So windows must remain partially open, or roof vents must stay cracked. This seems counterintuitive. You've just covered windows to keep heat in. Now you're deliberately letting cold air enter. But the calculation works. A small opening allows sufficient air exchange while losing far less heat than an uncovered window. The temperature drop is manageable. The prevention of condensation is essential. Experienced winter campers describe finding their balance point. Too much ventilation and the heater runs constantly. Too little and condensation appears by morning. The correct amount varies with temperature, humidity, how many people sleep inside, and what type of heater runs through the night. Learning this balance takes several nights. You make adjustments, you observe results, you find what works for your specific van, your climate, your situation. Some crack a window an inch, others open a roof vent halfway. Some do both, creating cross-ventilation that moves air through the space without creating drafts on sleeping bodies. The air that enters is cold, but it's dry. It absorbs moisture from breath and cooking. It keeps interior surfaces dry. It prevents the condensation that makes spaces feel colder than they actually are. Fresh air also helps with sleep. Oxygen-rich air leads to deeper rest. Stale air causes restless nights and morning headaches. So the window management becomes twofold. Cover them to keep warmth in, but allow air to pass. The walls present similar challenges, though less severe than windows. Metal walls conduct cold, though not as aggressively as glass. Even with exterior paint and thin interior paneling, metal van walls transfer outdoor temperatures inward. Touch a wall on a freezing night. The cold is immediate. Insulation addresses this. Most winter campers install wall insulation before their first winter. This isn't a nightly ritual like window covers. It's a permanent or semi-permanent modification. Approaches vary widely. Spray. Foam fills every cavity. Rigid foam boards line walls. Sheep's wool gets stuffed into wall spaces. Reflective bubble wrap creates simple barriers. The goal is breaking the thermal bridge, preventing the metal exterior from connecting directly to the interior living space. Even thin insulation makes a significant difference. 1 inch of foam board changes the interior wall temperature noticeably. 2 inches transforms it. The warmest vans have insulated walls, insulated windows at night, and careful ventilation management. Together, these create a shell that holds heat while staying dry. Standing inside such a van on a freezing night, you cannot see outside. The covered windows make the space darker. The covered walls make it smaller, but you also cannot feel the cold radiating inward. The space holds its warmth. Your heater cycles less frequently. Your body stays comfortable. The van becomes a deliberate shelter, sealed against the cold, open enough to breathe, small enough to warm efficiently. This is not passive survival. This is active management. Each element, window covers, insulation, ventilation, requires attention. But the attention becomes routine. The nightly tasks take minutes. The results last until morning. Heat rises. This simple fact shapes how winter campers insulate. The ceiling receives attention first. Without roof insulation, every bit of warmth generated inside rises upward and escapes through the thin metal roof. The space never truly warms. Most vans and campers arrive with no roof insulation, just a metal shell, maybe thin cosmetic paneling underneath. Winter dwellers change this. Spray foam works well in roof cavities. It expands to fill irregular spaces between roof ribs. Once cured, it forms a continuous layer that eliminates thermal bridging. Professional installations can achieve 2 inches of coverage. This makes an enormous difference. Others use rigid foam boards. These require careful cutting to fit between roof supports. Each piece must fit precisely. Gaps allow heat to escape. Tape seals the seams. The result is less perfect than spray foam, but far less expensive. Some use natural materials. Sheep's wool insulation fills roof cavities well. Thinsulate, the same material in winter coats, appears in some vans. Recycled denim insulation works. All of these share the goal of trapping air in small pockets that resist heat movement. The insulation alone isn't enough. The metal roof above it still grows cold. When warm interior air touches cold surfaces, condensation forms. So a vapor barrier becomes necessary. This is a moisture-proof layer between the living space and the insulation. It prevents humid air from reaching the cold metal roof. Without this barrier, moisture travels up through the insulation and condenses on the metal. Over time, this dampness ruins the insulation. In extreme cold, the moisture freezes. The result is ice forming inside the roof itself. The vapor barrier can be plastic sheeting, or specialized breathable membranes, or even reflective bubble wrap that serves double duty as barrier and additional insulation. The ceiling above you as you sleep should feel neither cold nor damp. Touch it and you should sense the room temperature, not the winter temperature outside. This matters more than many realize. Cold surfaces steal heat through radiation. Even if air temperature is comfortable, a cold ceiling above pulls warmth from your body. Sleep becomes difficult. You add more blankets but still feel cold. A properly insulated ceiling changes this. The surface above you stays close to room temperature. Your body loses less heat. The same air temperature feels warmer. Now, the floor. The floor matters even more than the ceiling. You never touch the ceiling, but your body makes constant contact with what lies beneath. An uninsulated van floor is simply metal. Underneath that metal is the cold ground, or worse, cold air flowing beneath the vehicle. The metal floor becomes an enormous heat sink that drains warmth from anything touching it. Stand barefoot on an uninsulated van floor in winter. The cold is immediate and painful. Within seconds, your feet ache. Within minutes, your whole body feels colder. This same principle applies during sleep. Even through a mattress, an uninsulated floor steals body heat continuously. You can sleep in a warm sleeping bag on an uninsulated floor and still wake cold because heat has been siphoning into the floor all night. Breaking contact with that cold surface transforms comfort. The most thorough approach is built-in floor insulation. Rigid foam boards laid across the entire floor, then covered with plywood, then finished with vinyl or another surface. This raises the floor several inches, but creates a thermal break between metal and living space. This modification requires commitment. It's permanent or semi-permanent. It reduces ceiling height slightly, but it makes the single largest difference in winter comfort. For those who can't modify floors permanently, layered rugs work surprisingly well. Not thin, decorative rugs, thick ones. Multiple layers if necessary. Foam yoga mats cut to fit the floor space. Interlocking foam tiles meant for gyms. Moving blankets folded in layers. Any of these create separation between metal and feet. The goal is trapping air. Dense materials that compress completely don't work well. Materials that maintain air pockets provide insulation. Some winter campers describe their floor systems in detail. First, a layer of reflective bubble wrap adhered to the metal floor, then rigid foam boards, then plywood, then foam tiles, then rugs. This sounds excessive, but each layer serves a purpose. The reflective layer bounces heat back upward. The foam provides actual insulation. The plywood creates a solid surface. The foam tiles add comfort and additional insulation. The rugs provide a warm surface for bare feet. Standing on such a floor in winter, you feel no cold. Walk from this floor to the metal step leading outside, and the temperature difference is shocking. The same principle applies to sleeping. Place a mattress directly on an insulated floor, and your sleeping bag doesn't have to work nearly as hard. Your body's heat stays with you instead of draining into the thermal mass below. Many winter campers report this as their most important modification. More important than wall insulation, more important than fancy heaters. An insulated floor meant the difference between tolerating winter camping and enjoying it. The combination of insulated ceiling and insulated floor creates an envelope. Heat generated inside stays inside. Cold surfaces don't steal that heat through radiation or conduction. Add insulated walls and covered windows, and the space becomes remarkably efficient. To heat, a small heater maintains comfort. Body heat alone contributes noticeably. But insulation is not about heat generation. It's about heat retention. The best insulation in the world won't warm a space. It only slows heat loss. You still need a heat source, but with proper insulation, that heat source can be smaller, can run less frequently, can use less fuel. On the coldest nights, when temperatures drop to 0 or below, insulation becomes the difference between burning through fuel constantly and sleeping comfortably through the night on minimal heat. The work of insulation happens once, or it happens each autumn for those with removable systems. Either way, it's not a nightly routine, but its effects last all winter, every night, every cold morning. The warmth stays where it belongs. The cold stays outside where it belongs. The van becomes a genuine shelter, not just a metal shell on wheels. A space that holds warmth, a place where sleep becomes possible even as winter rages outside. The diesel heater arrives in a box, small, compact, not much larger than a shoebox. The manual is thick with warnings and diagrams. The installation takes time, but once installed, it becomes the heartbeat of winter life in a van. These heaters work differently than what most people imagine. The flame burns outside the living space, in a sealed combustion chamber. It draws diesel fuel from a small tank. It pulls in outside air to feed the flame. Then it pushes warm air through a vent into the cabin. The exhaust leaves through a separate pipe. The two never mix. This separation matters. No combustion byproducts enter the space where you sleep. No carbon monoxide, no fumes, just warm air, steady and clean. The fuel consumption surprises people. A diesel heater can run all night on less than a quarter gallon, sometimes less. The flame is tiny. The efficiency is remarkable. A single gallon might last 4 or 5 nights, depending on how cold it gets and how warm you want your space. The sound becomes familiar quickly. A gentle whoosh, not loud, not intrusive, just the quiet rush of warm air moving through the vent. Some campers describe it as white noise. Others barely notice it after the first few nights. The sound means warmth is coming. It means the system is working. It becomes associated with comfort and safety. Most diesel heaters allow programming. You can set a target temperature the heater turns on when the space drops below that point. It turns off when warmth is reached. Through the night, it pulses, on for 20 minutes, off for 30, on again. The cycle continues without human intervention. You wake in the morning to the same comfortable temperature you set before sleep. This automation changes winter dwelling. You don't wake to freezing air. You don't need to leave your sleeping bag to start a fire or light a flame. The heater maintains the baseline warmth that makes rest possible. It removes the active management that exhausts people in cold conditions. The installation requires care. The fuel line must be secure. The air intake must draw from outside. The exhaust must vent properly. The electrical connection must be solid. Most campers hire professionals for the first install. Others study carefully and work slowly. Mistakes have consequences. But once installed correctly, these heaters are reliable. They run season after season. They start in temperatures far below freezing. They operate at altitude where propane struggles. They function regardless of moisture or condensation. The diesel fuel doesn't freeze like water. The system remains simple mechanically. The warmth they provide is gentle, not the blast of forced air from a house furnace, not the radiant heat of a wood fire, just steady warm air that raises the ambient temperature of the small space. The walls warm slightly. The air loses its sharp edge. Your breath no longer makes clouds. This matters more than dramatic heat. In a well-insulated van, you don't need to create summer conditions. You need to take the edge off winter. You need to lift the temperature from 15 degrees to 45. From dangerous to comfortable. From shivering to sleeping. The diesel heater accomplishes this with minimal fuel and modest power draw. The electrical consumption is small. The heater's fan and control board run on 12 volts. A house battery can support it through multiple nights. Solar panels can replenish what's used during the day. The system becomes sustainable even off-grid. This sustainability extends winter travel possibilities. You can park in snowy forests. You can camp in mountain passes. You can remain in one place through cold fronts without draining resources or seeking hookups. The diesel heater provides independence from external infrastructure. The routine becomes simple. Before bed, you check the fuel level. You set the thermostat, you make sure the exhaust pipe isn't blocked by snow. Then you sleep. The heater manages the rest. Some campers set their target temperature quite low, 50 degrees, 45 even. They rely on bedding to keep their bodies warm and use the heater only to prevent the space from dropping below comfort minimum. This approach conserves fuel and reduces condensation from warm air meeting cold surfaces. Others prefer more warmth, 55 or 60 degrees, enough that they can move around the space without layers. Enough that morning routines feel comfortable rather than rushed. The choice depends on insulation quality, personal preference, and fuel availability. Through the night, the heater's presence is felt more than heard. You might wake briefly when it cycles on. The whoosh starts softly. Warm air flows from the vent. Then silence as it reaches temperature and shuts off. The pattern becomes familiar, reassuring. Outside, temperatures might drop to zero, to negative numbers. Wind might press against the van walls. Snow might accumulate on the roof. Inside, the diesel heater maintains its steady work. It doesn't care about the cold. It doesn't struggle or fail. It simply burns a small amount of fuel and converts it to warmth. The process is mechanical, reliable, unglamorous in its effectiveness. For many winter campers, the diesel heater is not optional equipment. It is the foundation that makes everything else possible. Without it, winter in a van becomes a test of endurance. With it, winter becomes merely another season to experience from a small, warm space. The peace this brings is difficult to overstate. You can relax completely. You can read before bed. You can wake slowly. You don't need to perform urgent warming rituals the moment consciousness returns. The heater has already prepared the space. This transforms winter dwelling from survival challenge to sustainable practice. The propane heater sits on the floor. No installation required. No fuel lines to run. No exhaust pipes to mount. Just the heater itself, a propane bottle, and a simple connection between them. This simplicity draws people. You can carry the heater from vehicle to vehicle. You can store it during warm months. You can replace it easily if it fails. The barrier to entry is low. The learning curve is gentle. The most common model is small and boxy, red or black, a ceramic plate on the front, simple controls on the side, low, medium, high. An automatic shutoff if it tips, an oxygen sensor that turns it off if air quality drops. These safety features matter. Propane combustion happens inside the living space. The heater burns fuel and releases the byproducts directly into the air you breathe. Carbon dioxide, water vapor, heat. The oxygen sensor watches for problems. If levels become unsafe, the heater shuts down. This is why most winter campers use propane differently than diesel. They heat the space before bed. They warm the van during evening hours. They take the chill off after a cold day, but they turn the heater off before sleep arrives. The routine becomes predictable. 2 hours before bed, the propane heater goes on. Medium heat, usually. The space warms quickly. Metal walls that radiated cold begin to lose their edge. Air that made breath visible becomes comfortable. The transition is faster than diesel, more immediate than passive methods. You can feel the warmth on your skin. The ceramic plate glows faintly orange. Heat radiates outward. Unlike the ducted air of a diesel system, propane heat moves by radiation and convection. It warms objects and people directly. The feeling is pleasant, almost like sitting near a campfire, contained and controlled. But the moisture comes with it. Burning propane produces water vapor. Significant amounts. This vapor enters the air inside your van. If the space is sealed tight, condensation increases dramatically. Windows fog, walls drip, fabric grows damp. This is why ventilation becomes critical when running propane. A roof vent stays cracked open. A window drops an inch. Cold air enters, but it also carries moisture out. The exchange is necessary. Without it, the space becomes humid despite the cold. Sleeping bags grow damp. Walls develop ice on the inside. The balance requires attention. Too much ventilation and the heater struggles to warm the space. Too little and moisture accumulates. Most campers develop a feel for the right amount. They watch for condensation patterns. They adjust based on outside temperature and humidity. The fuel itself comes in familiar green bottles, 1-pound canisters for short trips, 20-pound tanks for extended stays. The bottles connect with simple fittings. No pumps, no electronics, just mechanical connection and fuel flow controlled by a valve. A 1-pound canister might provide 4 hours of heat on low. A 20-pound tank might last weeks if used only for evening warming. The consumption depends entirely on how long you run it and at what intensity. This creates different math than diesel. Propane is often more expensive per heat unit. The bottles need refilling or exchanging. In remote areas, resupply becomes a consideration, but the initial investment is lower. The system is more portable. For some campers, these trade-offs favor propane. Others use both systems. Propane for quick evening warmth when they first enter the cold van. diesel through the night for sustained temperature maintenance. The two complement each other. Each provides what the other lacks. The sound of propane heat is quieter than diesel. No fan, no whoosh of moving air, just a faint hiss of gas flowing and the subtle sound of combustion. Some models are nearly silent. Others produce a low whisper. The quiet feels different than diesel's active presence. This affects the atmosphere. Propane heat feels more passive, more like warming yourself by a radiator than being inside a heated space. The heater glows. You sit near it. The warmth is there if you want it, less noticeable if you move away. The safety considerations are real but manageable. Carbon monoxide detectors are essential. They're inexpensive and battery-powered. They alert if combustion byproducts reach dangerous levels. Most modern propane heaters include sensors that shut down before problems develop. But the detector provides backup protection. The heater must sit on stable surface. If it tips, fuel can spill or the flame can contact materials that shouldn't be heated. The automatic shutoff helps, but prevention is better. Most campers designate a specific spot. The heater stays there. Nothing flammable nearby. The warmth feels different in different spaces. In a small van, a propane heater on low can make the space almost too warm. In a larger RV, it barely takes the edge off. The radiant nature of the heat means proximity matters. Sit close and you're comfortable. Move to the far end and you're still cold. This creates zones. The area near the heater becomes the evening gathering place. You sit there to read, to cook, to prepare for bed. The warmth is immediate and pleasant. Other areas of the van remain cooler. You move through temperature gradients as you move through space. Before sleep, the ritual is consistent. You turn off the heater. You crack a vent for fresh air through the night. You trust your insulation and bedding to maintain comfort. The propane has done its work. It warmed the space. It made the evening comfortable. Now other systems take over. Some campers resist turning it off. They want continuous warmth. They want to wake to heated air. But the safety protocols and moisture concerns make all-night operation complicated. Most eventually adopt the warm then sleep pattern. The morning brings cold again. You wake to air that's lost the evening's warmth. Your breath is visible. The metal walls are cold to touch. You can turn the propane heater back on. Warm the space while you dress. Heat water for coffee, then turn it off again before leaving. The propane heater becomes a tool for transitions, from cold day to comfortable evening, from sleep to morning activity. It provides bursts of warmth when needed most. It bridges the gaps that insulation alone can't fill. For many campers, this is enough. They don't need all-night heating. They sleep well in cold air with good bedding. What they need is comfort during waking hours in the van. The propane heater delivers this simply and reliably. The glow of the ceramic plate becomes familiar. It means evening has begun. It means the cold outside is held at bay for a while. It means comfort is available in a small, temporary, movable form. In some vans, the evening begins with fire. Not all vehicles can accommodate this. The space must be large enough. A Sprinter van, perhaps. A larger camper, the ceiling high enough to allow clearance. The walls protected by heat shields. The stove itself small, designed for marine use or compact RVs. Its footprint measured in inches rather than feet. But where a wood stove fits, it transforms the night. The ritual starts before sunset. Wood must be gathered, not logs, but small pieces. Kindling, splits no thicker than a wrist. The stove is small. It cannot hold much. What it does hold must be dry. The gathering itself becomes meditative, walking through cold air, selecting pieces, carrying them back, stacking them near the door where they can be reached without stepping outside again. As light fades, the stove is prepared. The ash pan is emptied from the previous fire, the grate cleaned. Crumpled paper goes in first, then kindling, arranged so air can move between pieces. Larger splits stacked loosely on top, a match, the catch and spread of flame. The door stays open at first. You sit near it. You watch the fire take hold. Small adjustments are made. A piece shifted, another added. The draft adjusted until the burn is steady and clean. Then the door closes. The stove begins to radiate heat, not the forced air warmth of diesel heaters, not the directional glow of propane. This is radiant heat, moving outward in all directions. You feel it on your face, on your hands. The metal surfaces of the stove warm first, then the air around them, then the van itself. Wood must be added throughout the evening. The stove is too small to hold a night's worth of fuel. Every hour or so, the door opens. A piece is added, sometimes two. The fire is stirred, the ash redistributed. The door closed again. This is not inconvenient. It becomes part of the evening's rhythm. You are reading and you pause to add wood. You are cooking, and between steps, you tend the fire. You are settling into stillness, and the small task of feeding the stove punctuates the descent into night. The sound is constant, crackling, the occasional pop of sap igniting, the subtle roar of air moving through the firebox. It is not quiet, but it is not jarring. It becomes the soundtrack of warmth. The heat changes the space. Moisture evaporates from damp clothing hung near the stove. Condensation that would form on windows instead rises and escapes through the vent. The air feels drier, warmer. The metal walls, which would normally radiate cold inward, now absorb some of the stove's warmth. As bedtime approaches, the fire is fed one last time, a careful selection of wood, dense pieces that will burn slowly. The stove is loaded as full as it safely can be. The draft is adjusted to slow the burn. Not closed completely, some airflow must continue, but restricted enough that the fire will stretch into the night rather than flaring and dying quickly. Then you prepare for sleep. The stove will not last until morning. In 3 hours, perhaps 4, it will burn down to coals, then embers, then ash. This is expected. This is part of the design. You do not rely on the stove to keep you warm through the entire night. You rely on it to warm the space thoroughly before sleep, and you rely on insulation and bedding to maintain that warmth after the fire dies. The van is very warm now, warmer than it needs to be for sleep. You crack a window slightly, you remove a layer, you arrange bedding so you can adjust it easily if you become too warm in the first hours of night. Then you lie down. The fire is still burning. You can hear it. See the faint glow if you look toward the stove. Feel the warmth radiating across the space. It is deeply comforting. Primal, perhaps. Fire has meant safety and warmth for as long as humans have gathered around it. You do not stay awake to tend it. That is not necessary. At some point in the night, the fire will die. You will not notice the exact moment. The warmth will fade gradually. The temperature will drop, but not suddenly. The insulation will hold much of what the stove created. Your bedding will hold the rest. By morning, the stove is cold. The van is cool, but not freezing. You emerge from bedding into air that shows your breath. You open the stove. Ash remains. You empty it. You begin again. The wood stove is not the most efficient heating method. It requires constant attention during waking hours. It needs fuel gathered and stored. It creates ash that must be disposed of. It cannot be left burning unattended while you sleep. But those who use wood stoves in winter vans rarely speak of efficiency. They speak of ritual, of the meditative quality of fire tending, of how the evening slows around the rhythm of adding wood, of the particular quality of radiant heat, of how the crackling sound and flickering glow create an atmosphere that no thermostat can replicate. The fire demands presence. You cannot simply turn it on and forget it. You must pay attention. Check it, feed it, adjust it. This could be seen as inconvenience. Instead, it becomes a practice, a way of staying connected to the simple fact of warmth, the effort it requires, the comfort it provides. In the morning, as you prepare the stove for another day, your hands remember the motions. Your body knows the rhythm. The ritual has settled into muscle and routine. And when evening comes again, you will gather wood. You will build the fire. You will tend it through the hours before sleep. You will let it die as your own consciousness fades. This is how some people warm their vans in winter. Not with technology that runs automatically through the night, but with fire that must be maintained, attended, and finally released. It is slower, more involved, more connected to the fundamental human relationship with warmth. For those who choose it, that is precisely the point. Some vans have no heaters at all. This is not an oversight, not an inability to afford heating equipment. It is a deliberate choice made by those who understand insulation in bodies and the nature of cold itself. The approach is called passive heat retention. No fuel is burned during the night. No electricity powers heating elements. No devices hum or glow or circulate warm air. The warmth that exists at bedtime is all the warmth there will be. The task is not to generate heat, but to keep the heat that already exists from escaping. This begins with insulation. Thorough insulation. Every surface that separates inside from outside must be covered. Walls, ceiling, floor, no gaps. No thermal bridges where metal conducts cold inward. The van becomes a thermos, not perfect, but effective enough. Windows are covered at night. Heavy fabric, reflective insulation, layers that trap air between them. These covers are not decorative. They are essential. Glass loses heat faster than insulated walls. Covering windows can cut heat loss by half. The second element is body heat. A human body at rest produces approximately 100 watts of heat. Not much, but not nothing. In a small, well-insulated space, this matters. Over the course of a night, your body warms the air around you, and if that air cannot escape, it warms the space. Two bodies produce twice as much heat. Partners sleeping in insulated vans often wake to spaces that are warmer in the morning than they were at bedtime. Their combined heat output, trapped by insulation, has nowhere to go but into the air they breathe. Pets contribute as well. A dog curled against you is not just companionship. It is 80 to 100 watts of additional heat. Cats, smaller but no less warm, add their own measure. In truly cold weather, these contributions become significant. The third element is preparation. Passive heating does not mean accepting whatever temperature exists at bedtime. It means warming the space before sleep through activities that generate heat, then keeping that heat through the night. Cooking creates warmth. A hot meal prepared on a camp stove raises the interior temperature several degrees. The heat from boiling water, simmering food, the stove itself, all of it lingers after cooking is done. Hot water bottles are filled. Not just one, but several. They are placed in the sleeping bag an hour before bed, warming the space your body will occupy. They release heat slowly through the night. By morning they are cool, but they have done their work. Some people exercise briefly before bed, jumping jacks in place, stretches that increase heart rate. Enough movement to raise body temperature, then into bed while still warm, sealing that warmth into insulation and bedding. The fourth element is bedding. Without active heating, bedding must be excellent. A sleeping bag rated for temperatures far below the actual outside temperature, or layers of quilts and blankets thick enough to trap body heat and prevent it from radiating upward into cool air. The mattress matters even more. Cold rises from below, conducted through the floor. A thick foam mattress, perhaps supplemented with closed cell foam underneath, breaks that connection. You do not lose heat to the floor. The heat your body produces stays around you. Some add a wool blanket between mattress and sleeping bag. Wool insulates even when compressed by body weight. It creates a warm layer between you and everything below. The fifth element is containment. Small spaces are easier to heat and easier to keep warm. A partition can be hung to separate the sleeping area from the rest of the van. Heavy fabric, even just a curtain, creates a smaller volume of air that your body must warm. Some minimalist winter campers sleep in spaces no larger than a closet. Just room for a mattress and bedding. The walls close around them. What would feel claustrophobic in summer becomes cozy in winter. The smaller the space, the less heat is required to maintain comfort. The approach has limitations. It works in moderately cold weather, but not in extreme cold. Somewhere below 10 or 15 degrees Fahrenheit, body heat alone is not enough. Even excellent insulation cannot prevent all heat loss. The space will gradually cool through the night. It requires perfect insulation. Any gap, any thermal bridge, any uninsulated section creates a point where cold enters and warmth escapes. Half measures do not work. The van must be thoroughly prepared. It requires excellent bedding. Sleeping bags rated for summer camping are not sufficient, nor are standard household blankets. The bedding must be capable of keeping you warm, even if the air temperature drops near freezing. But within these limitations, passive heating is remarkably effective. Those who use this approach describe mornings where their breath still shows in the air, but their bodies are warm, where the sleeping bag is cozy enough that leaving it requires mental preparation, where the temperature inside is perhaps 40 degrees, but that is 40 degrees warmer than outside, and with good bedding, it is enough. There is something satisfying in this, in achieving warmth without burning anything, in relying on careful preparation and good materials rather than technology, in understanding the physics of heat retention well enough to work with body heat alone. The approach is quiet. No heater hum, no propane hiss, no crackling fire. Just silence and stillness and the barely perceptible warmth of your own body held close by insulation and fabric. It requires trust in your preparation, trust in your materials, trust that when you seal yourself into bedding, the system will work, that you will stay warm not because something is actively warming you, but because nothing is allowing warmth to leave. Morning comes slowly. You wake in a cool space, not frigid, but cool enough to feel immediately. You do not linger. You pull on layers while still in the sleeping bag. Then you emerge quickly into air that makes you move with purpose. You make hot tea or coffee. The steam rises. The cup warms your hands. Within minutes, you are comfortable again, and the next night, you will do the same. Insulate, prepare, warm the space through activity and cooking. Seal yourself into excellent bedding. Let your body do the rest. This is warmth without fire, warmth without fuel, warmth created by understanding what heat is, where it goes, and how to keep it from leaving. It is minimalist, quiet, surprisingly effective, and for some winter campers, it is all they need. The warming begins before sleep arrives. Most winter van dwellers do not wait until bedtime to start their heat. They begin an hour before they plan to close their eyes. Sometimes 2 hours. The space must reach warmth before the body settles into stillness. This is a practiced rhythm. The heater turns on first. A diesel heater hums to life. A propane unit clicks and glows. A small wood stove receives its evening fuel. The goal is not just warmth, it is saturation. The metal walls must absorb heat. The bedding must lose its chill. The air itself must warm enough that breathing feels comfortable. During this warming hour, life continues at normal pace. Dinner is prepared, dishes are washed, a book is read near the heat source. The body remains active while the space transforms. This is intentional. Activity generates body heat. Movement keeps circulation strong. By the time sleep approaches, both space and body have reached their warmest state. Then a small ritual unfolds. A kettle boils water. Not for drinking, though some drink tea as well. The hot water fills rubber bottles, the kind sold for aches and camping. Nalgene bottles work too, though care must be taken with boiling water in plastic. The bottles are wrapped in spare shirts or towels to prevent burns. These bottles go into the sleeping bag, not at the foot, where most people expect. Winter campers place them in the core of the bag, where the torso will rest, where the thighs will curl. The bottles sit there while final preparations happen. 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. The bedding absorbs their heat. The sleeping bag becomes a pre-warmed pocket. Some people drink warmth instead of placing it. A mug of soup, a cup of tea, hot cocoa made with whole milk. The liquid is very warm, just cool enough to drink without burning. It goes down slowly. The stomach fills with heat. This internal warmth radiates outward. Blood carries it through the body. For hours after drinking, the core temperature stays elevated. This matters more than most people realize. A warm core allows the body to keep extremities warm. Cold fingers and toes often result not from exposed skin, but from a cool core that conserves heat by restricting blood flow. Evening warmth addresses this from within. The routine has a secondary purpose. It creates a boundary, a transition. The act of boiling water, filling bottles, making tea. These small rituals signal to the body and mind that sleep approaches. They slow the pace. They focus attention. They mark the shift from day to night. Outside temperatures continue to drop. The coldest hours come after midnight, 3 in the morning. 4. The heat built during evening must carry through these hours. Some people leave their heaters running on low, others let the warmth dissipate slowly, trusting insulation and bedding to preserve what was gained. Both approaches work. What matters is that the transition into sleep happens from warmth, not into it. The body should not enter sleep while still seeking heat. It should slip into rest already comfortable with reserves of warmth stored in bedding, bottles, and core temperature. The clothing comes off during this warm period. Not all of it, but more than seems sensible. The space is warmest now. The body is active and hot from moving through evening tasks. Heavy layers go into a pile near the pillow. What remains is lighter than expected. This too is intentional. The body will sleep warmer if it starts in warmth rather than entering bedding already bundled. The hot water bottles get repositioned. When it is time to sleep, they move from their resting place in the core of the bag. One might go near the feet now, another stays at stomach level. Some people place one outside the sleeping bag but under blankets, creating ambient warmth without direct contact. The bottles will cool through the night. Their heat will dissipate. But for the first hours of sleep, the crucial hours when the body is falling into deep rest, they provide a pocket of steady warmth. The heater receives its final adjustment. If it will run through the night, the thermostat drops several degrees, enough to maintain temperature above freezing, not enough to overheat. If it will turn off, now is when that happens. The space has reached its peak warmth. From here, it will slowly cool, but slowly is the key. Insulation slows the loss. Thermal mass in mattresses and walls releases stored heat. The decline is gentle enough that sleep remains undisturbed. Some people drink water before bed, not too much. Getting up in the night means leaving warmth, exposing the body to cold air, disrupting the careful cocoon, but enough to prevent waking from thirst. Hydration affects how the body regulates temperature. Dehydration makes people feel colder. A small amount of water, consumed while the space is still warm, carries through the night. The final actions are small. Adjusting the pillow, checking that morning clothes are within reach. Making sure a flashlight is nearby. Confirming the door is secured but not sealed. Ventilation must continue even while sleeping. These small checks happen quickly. They are routine now. Then the body slides into the pre-warmed sleeping bag. The difference is immediate. The bedding is not cold. It does not pull heat from skin. Instead, it holds heat, surrounds the body in stored warmth. The hot water bottles radiate against stomach and feet. The core is still warm from evening tea. The air is the coolest element now, but it touches only the face. This is the moment the ritual creates. Not a cold dive into bedding that must slowly warm, but an arrival into comfort that is already present. The body does not fight for heat. It simply maintains what is already there. Sleep comes faster this way. The struggle to warm up keeps people awake. The body stays alert when it is cold. It monitors discomfort. It tenses muscles to generate heat. But when warmth is already established, when comfort is immediate, the body releases into rest. Outside, snow may be falling. Inside, in this small, warm space, the evening ritual has done its work. The hours of preparation have collapsed into this single feeling. The body settles. Breathing deepens. The warmth built before sleep carries into sleep itself. This is not accident. This is practice. This is the knowledge learned through many winter nights. That warmth must be gathered, stored, and preserved. That the body sleeps best when it arrives at rest already comfortable. That the time invested in warming the space and body is returned in hours of undisturbed sleep. The ritual ends when consciousness fades, but its effects continue. Through the coldest hours, the preparations hold. The insulation below, the bedding above, the bottles slowly cooling, the body's core maintaining temperature, all the elements working together, all the small actions of evening making, possible the stillness of night. The ground steals heat. This is the first truth of winter sleeping in vehicles. Cold metal floors pull warmth from bodies faster than cold air ever could. Contact transfers heat. Air only surrounds. Metal beneath the body acts as a drain, drawing heat downward constantly through the night. This is why winter van sleeping inverts normal bedding logic. In houses, people pile blankets. On top, down comforters, heavy quilts. The instinct is to cover the body against cold air, but in vans, experienced winter sleepers build upward from the floor first. What lies beneath matters more than what lies above. The foundation is thickness. Mattresses in winter vans are not thin, 4 inches minimum, often 6. Some approach 8 inches of layered padding between body and floor. This thickness is not mainly about comfort, though comfort follows. It is about distance. About creating space between warm body and cold surface, about interrupting the transfer of heat downward. Foam provides this distance. Memory foam is popular in houses. It conforms to body shape. It feels luxurious. But in winter vans, it is not the first choice. Memory foam is open cell. It compresses under body weight. It allows air to move through its structure. It insulates less effectively than its thickness suggests. Closed cell foam performs better in cold. This is the dense foam used in camping pads, in yoga mats, in industrial insulation. Its structure traps air in sealed bubbles. It does not compress as much under weight. It creates a more consistent barrier between body and cold. It insulates reliably. But closed cell foam is firm, too firm for many people to sleep on directly. It does not yield. It creates pressure points at hips and shoulders. Sleep quality suffers even as warmth improves. This is the trade-off winter campers must navigate. The solution is layering. A base of closed-cell foam goes down first, 2 inches, sometimes 3. This layer never touches the body. It is pure insulation. Its only job is blocking cold from below. On top of this, a softer open-cell layer, memory foam now, or conventional mattress foam. 3 to 4 inches of comfort that the body actually rests on. The combination provides both insulation and comfort. The closed cell base does the thermal work. The open cell top does the pressure relief. Together they create a sleeping surface that keeps the body warm without sacrificing the comfort that allows deep sleep. But foam alone is not enough. Foam insulates, but it does not manage moisture. Bodies release water vapor through the night. Perspiration, breath. This moisture moves downward into bedding. In winter, it meets cold surfaces. It condenses. Over days, mattresses can become damp. Damp insulation loses effectiveness. Damp bedding feels cold and uncomfortable. Wool changes this. A wool mattress pad goes on top of the foam, not synthetic fleece, not cotton padding. Wool, the material shepherds have trusted for thousands of years in cold climates. Wool absorbs moisture without feeling wet. It wicks water away from skin. It continues insulating even when damp. This matters through winter nights. The body stays dry. The foam beneath stays dry. Moisture is held in the wool layer where it cannot condense on cold foam or metal. During the day in dry climates, the wool releases this moisture to the air. The system resets. Some winter campers add another layer. Insulated sleeping pads, the kind backpackers carry, go beneath the mattress on the coldest nights. These pads have R values, measurements of insulation effectiveness. An R value of 4 or 5 is standard for winter camping. Placed under a mattress, they add significant thermal protection. This creates a stack, metal floor, sleeping pad with R-value insulation, closed cell foam base, open cell comfort foam, wool mattress pad, then sheets and sleeping bag. The body rests on top of all this, separated from the cold floor by 6 to 10 inches of layered insulation. The difference is profound. Without this foundation, the body fights cold all night. Heat drains downward. The back, hips, and shoulders grow cold. Sleep is restless. Morning arrives with stiffness and chill, but with proper insulation below, the body maintains temperature. The battle is won before sleep begins. The platform itself matters. Many van conversions include raised bed platforms. These are not just for storage underneath. The platform creates an air gap between floor and mattress. Dead air insulates. Even a few inches of space beneath the sleeping platform reduces heat loss to the metal floor below. Some people insulate the platform. Foam board fills the frame. Reflective bubble wrap lines the underside. The goal is to treat the platform as part of the thermal system, not just structure. Every surface between body and metal contributes to warmth, or allows loss. Width matters less than expected. A twin mattress provides enough space for insulation layers. A full or queen offers more comfort, but does not significantly improve warmth. What matters is thickness and material quality, not surface area. A well-insulated twin keeps someone warmer than a poorly insulated queen. The edges require attention. Heat escapes where mattress meets wall, where body extends beyond padding. Some winter campers cut foam to fit wall to wall, eliminating gaps. Others use extra padding along edges where cold walls meet sleeping space. These details seem small but accumulate into noticeable comfort differences. The bottom layer never shows. Unlike blankets and sleeping bags, which are visible and obvious, the foundation remains hidden. Visitors to winter vans do not see the closed-cell foam or sleeping pads. They see only the top surface. But experienced winter dwellers know the unseen layers below do more work than the visible layers above. This inverts normal thinking. In houses, people shop for thick comforters and heavy blankets. They focus on what covers them. But winter van life teaches a different priority. The body generates enough heat to warm itself. The challenge is preventing that heat from draining away, and it drains fastest through contact with cold surfaces below. So the foundation is built first, before selecting a sleeping bag, before choosing blankets. The platform, the foam, the wool, these come first. They are not afterthoughts or optional upgrades, they are the system. They are what makes winter sleeping possible. The investment concentrates here. Good closed-cell foam costs money. Quality wool pads are not cheap. Insulated sleeping pads designed for winter camping carry serious price tags. But this is where budget should go first. A person will sleep warmer on excellent foundation insulation with a mediocre sleeping bag than on a thin mattress with the most expensive bag made. The body confirms this. After a night on proper insulation, the back is warm. The hips are comfortable. There's no cold spot where shoulder met surface. The body stayed warm from beneath while sleeping. This is the feeling that validates the approach. Beneath the body, invisible and unglamorous, layers of foam and wool do their work. They interrupt the cold. They preserve the heat. They create the foundation on which winter sleep is built. The sleeping bag hangs open on a hook. This is not how most people imagine winter sleep in a van. The shape is familiar. The mummy taper, the hood cinched tight, the long zipper running the length. But in practice, it rarely stays that way. Sleeping bags were designed for a specific purpose. They create a sealed environment. Heat cannot escape easily. The rating printed on the stuff sack promises comfort down to a certain temperature. 0 degrees, 10 below, 20 below. The number offers reassurance. But a number cannot account for everything. Some winter campers zip themselves fully inside. They pull the hood around their face. They cinch the drawstring until only nose and mouth remain exposed. This is how the rating was tested. This is how the warmth is guaranteed. On cold nights below 10 degrees, this approach makes sense. The bag becomes a cocoon. Body heat fills the interior. The insulation holds it close. Others find this unbearable. The constriction feels wrong. The sealed space creates anxiety. They sweat. They twist. They wake feeling trapped. For them, the sleeping bag serves a different role. The bag opens flat across the bed. It becomes a comforter. The insulation still works. The down or synthetic fill still traps warm air. But the form changes. Legs can move. Arms can shift. The body breathes more freely. A sheet goes underneath. The opened sleeping bag covers like a blanket. Sometimes another layer goes on top. This is layering. It mirrors how insulation works in walls. Multiple thinner barriers often outperform one thick one. Air trapped between layers adds warmth. The system becomes adjustable. Too warm, and one layer peels back. Too cold, and it returns. Down versus synthetic fill. This question surfaces early. Down offers warmth for its weight. The loft is remarkable. Goose down, especially high-quality clusters, creates tiny air pockets that hold heat with almost no mass. A down bag, rated for 0 degrees, can compress to the size of a cantaloupe. When released, it expands into thick insulation. But down has a weakness. Moisture destroys its function. When wet, the clusters clump. The air pockets collapse. The insulation fails. In a van or camper, moisture is constant. Breath, cooking, wet clothes, condensation on cold surfaces, even body moisture during sleep. Down bags require careful management. They must stay dry. This is difficult. Synthetic fill tolerates dampness. Polyester fibers maintain loft even when wet. They dry faster. They cost less. The trade is weight and bulk. A synthetic bag rated for the same temperature weighs more. It compresses less. For someone living in a van where space matters, this creates tension. But for those traveling in wet climates, synthetic makes sense. Many compromise. They use down but layer it with synthetic. A synthetic bag opened flat underneath, a down bag on top, or a down bag with a synthetic quilt. The system provides backup. If moisture becomes an issue, the synthetic layer continues working. Traditional bedding appears in many winter vans: sheets, blankets, comforters. These items feel like home. They offer psychological comfort. Familiarity matters during long, cold nights. The weight of a heavy quilt creates security. The softness of flannel sheets invites rest. Wool blankets show up often. Wool is remarkable. It insulates even when damp. It wicks moisture away from the body. It regulates temperature across a wide range. A good wool blanket, military surplus or Hudson Bay style, becomes a cornerstone of winter bedding. It goes between other layers or on top. It adapts to the night. Some use duvets. A duvet cover protects the fill inside. The fill can be down, synthetic, or wool. The cover can be washed. The system stays cleaner longer. Duvets allow adjustment. Different fills for different seasons. A lighter fill for autumn, a heavier one for deep winter. The top layer matters. A sleeping bag's outer shell is designed to contain warmth. But when opened flat, that shell now sits against the body or underneath, not on top. Another layer often goes over everything: a fleece blanket, a lightweight quilt, something that tucks easily. This final layer seals the system. It prevents drafts from stealing warmth through gaps. Bedding must account for movement. Bodies shift during sleep. Covers slip. Gaps open. Cold air finds these spaces. Some use sleeping bag liners. Silk or fleece liners add warmth and stay in place better than loose sheets. The liner moves with the body. The outer bag or blankets can shift, but the liner maintains a warm boundary. Others use clips. Small clamps attach blankets to the mattress edge. The bedding stays anchored. This is common in campers with fixed beds. The system remains intact through the night. Adjustability defines successful winter bedding. No single setup works for every night. Temperatures fluctuate. Bodies respond differently. A system that allows adding or removing layers without fully waking makes sleep sustainable. One night might require everything, the next might need half. The architecture must allow this. Storage matters too. During the day, bedding must go somewhere. Some vans have no separation between living and sleeping space. The bed becomes a couch. Bedding stuffs into bags or baskets. It compresses, it hides. At night, it re-emerges. The ritual of making the bed becomes part of the evening routine. Pillows follow the same logic. Down pillows compress well. Synthetic pillows dry faster. Some use stuffed sacks filled with soft clothes. This saves space. It eliminates a dedicated item. The pillow empties in the morning. The clothes return to use. The goal is not complexity. The goal is warmth that adapts. The architecture of bedding in winter vans is not about having the perfect single solution. It is about having options, layers that combine, materials that handle moisture, systems that adjust without thought. On a night when wind drives the temperature down, everything goes on. The liner, the opened bag, the wool blanket, the top quilt. The body settles into a nest of insulation. On a milder night, the bag alone suffices. The architecture is personal. What works in the dry cold of Colorado fails in the damp cold of Oregon. What comforts one person constricts another. Winter campers build their systems over time. They try combinations. They learn their bodies. They discover what makes sleep possible. The sleeping bag hangs open on its hook. Beside it, a wool blanket folds on a shelf. A duvet sits, compressed in a stuff sack. These are the materials. The architecture is how they come together when darkness falls. The first instinct is wrong. When the van is cold and night is approaching, the body wants layers, more clothing, everything available. Thermal underwear, fleece pants, a thick sweatshirt, a winter hat, maybe 2 pairs of socks. The logic feels sound. More insulation, more warmth. But this approach fails. Clothing worn during the day carries moisture, sweat, humidity. Even on cold days, the body produces moisture. It settles into fabric. Cotton holds it. Even synthetic materials retain some. When the body climbs into a sleeping bag wearing damp clothing, that moisture stays. It sits against the skin. As the body warms the bedding, the moisture warms too. It becomes vapor. It migrates. Some moves into the sleeping bag's insulation. Some stays on the skin. Either way, comfort decreases. Worse, too many layers make the body sweat during sleep. The bedding is designed to insulate. When heavy clothing is added, the system becomes too warm. The body responds by perspiring. The moisture has nowhere to go. It saturates the inner layers. By morning, the clothing is damp. The bedding has absorbed moisture. The person wakes cold. Experienced winter campers wear less. This seems counterintuitive, but the logic is clear. A base layer. This is the foundation. Long underwear, top and bottom, thermal weight. The fabric must wick moisture. Merino wool is preferred. It pulls moisture away from skin. It insulates even when damp. It resists odor. A single set of merino long underwear can be worn for many nights. It washes easily. It dries overnight. Synthetic base layers work too. Polyester blends designed for moisture wicking. They dry faster than wool. They cost less, but they retain odor more quickly. They feel less comfortable against skin. Still, they function. They move moisture. They provide a thin insulation layer. The base layer is dedicated. It is worn only for sleep, not during the day, not while cooking or sitting, only in bed. This keeps it clean. It prevents daytime moisture from entering the sleep system. Some people keep their sleep base layer in a stuff sack with their bedding. It becomes part of the bedding, not the clothing. Over the base layer, not much. Sometimes nothing. On extremely cold nights, below zero, a light fleece layer might be added. Fleece pants, a fleece jacket. But these are lightweight. Quarter-zip pullovers, thin fleece tights, just enough to add another boundary of warm air, not enough to cause sweating. Socks. This is important. Feet lose heat quickly. Cold feet prevent sleep, but the socks must be right. Thick wool socks, smart wool, darn tough, something with cushion, something that wicks. Cotton socks fail here. They trap moisture from feet. If feet sweat even when cold. Cotton becomes damp and cold. Wool stays warm. Some people use two pairs, a thin liner sock, then a thick wool sock over it. The liner wicks. The outer sock insulates. This is the same layering principle applied everywhere else, but some find two pairs too warm. They wake with sweaty feet. The system must match the body. A hat changes everything. The head loses significant heat. Blood vessels near the scalp radiate warmth. In a sleeping bag with the hood cinched, this matters less. But for those who cannot sleep with their face covered or who use open bedding, a hat is essential, a simple wool beanie. Or a balaclava, something that covers ears and pulls low. Merino again works well. The head stays warm. The body retains more heat. Sleep improves. Some people cannot sleep with a hat. They find it uncomfortable. They wake and remove it unconsciously. For them, the hood of a sleeping bag serves the same purpose. Or they tuck their head partially under a blanket. The goal is the same. Reduce heat loss from the head. What to avoid? Cotton. Anything cotton. Cotton t-shirts, cotton sweatpants, cotton sweatshirts. Cotton absorbs moisture and holds it. It becomes cold. It stays cold. It makes the entire sleep system less effective. This is true everywhere in winter camping, but it is especially true for sleep clothing. Jeans are worn during the day. They are never worn to sleep. Heavy denim does not breathe. It traps moisture. It restricts movement. It makes sleeping bags uncomfortable. The same principle applies to heavy jackets. A down jacket worn during the evening provides warmth before bed, but it comes off before climbing into the bedding. The jacket is insulation. The sleeping bag is insulation. Doubling them reduces effectiveness. The jacket compresses under the body. Its loft decreases. It adds bulk without adding warmth. It causes sweating. The down jacket often goes inside the sleeping bag near the feet, or it becomes a pillow, or it drapes over the outside of the bedding as an extra layer, but it is not worn. Undergarments, this varies. Some people sleep in underwear beneath the base layer, some do not. The base layer itself is often sufficient. Long underwear bottoms are designed to be worn alone. They have a built-in liner in many cases. Adding underwear creates another layer that can trap moisture. Most experienced campers skip it. Bras are generally removed. The elastic and structure restricts circulation. Circulation is important for warmth. Compression reduces blood flow. Reduced blood flow means colder extremities. Sports bras are sometimes worn if preferred, but they must be loose. Clothing must allow adjustment. On a cold night, the base layer plus hat plus socks might be perfect. On a milder night, the hat comes off. Maybe the socks come off halfway through. The system works because it is simple. It is easy to add or remove a single item without fully waking. Some winter campers keep an extra fleece layer within reach, a pullover draped over the bedding. If the night becomes colder than expected, the fleece can be pulled on without leaving the warm bedding. Then, if it warms, it comes off again. The ritual is consistent. Before bed, day clothes come off. They are damp from the day. They are set aside to air out. The sleep base layer goes on. It is dry, it is clean. The body climbs into the bedding. The transition is immediate, no lingering in the cold. This system keeps bedding drier. Sleeping bags and blankets last longer. They retain loft better. They need washing less often. The moisture management extends beyond a single night. It protects the entire sleep system over weeks and months. Morning reverses the process. The sleep base layer comes off. It hangs to air. Day clothes go on. The separation is maintained. Sleep clothing for sleep. Day clothing for everything else. What people wear for sleep in winter vans is less than expected. A thin base layer. Wool socks. Sometimes a hat. Rarely more. The bedding does the work. The clothing manages moisture and provides a comfortable boundary. The body stays warm. The system stays dry. Sleep becomes possible. The question appears on cold nights. Should your face stay out in the cold air or tuck inside where it is warm? There is no single answer. Winter campers divide on this point. Each approach carries its own logic. Breathing into a sleeping bag keeps your face warm. The exhaled air is warmer than the surrounding space. It feels immediately more comfortable. The cold air cannot reach your nose or cheeks, but moisture follows breath. Every exhalation carries water vapor. In a confined space like a sleeping bag, that moisture has nowhere to go. It condenses on fabric. The dampness spreads through insulation. What felt warm at first becomes clammy by morning. Wet insulation loses its ability to trap heat. This is the trade: immediate warmth for eventual dampness. Many choose a middle path. A neck gaiter pulled over the nose and mouth warms incoming air without sealing it inside the bag. The fabric catches some moisture, but allows the rest to escape. Your face stays warmer than exposed. Your bedding stays drier than sealed. Some use buff-style tubes. Others prefer loose scarves. The principle remains the same: a permeable barrier that warms without trapping. Others keep their faces fully exposed. Cold air on skin feels sharp at first. Your nose gets cold. Your cheeks feel the chill, but the body adjusts within minutes. The rest of you stays warm beneath layers. Only the face meets the cold directly. This approach keeps all moisture out of bedding. Breath disperses into the open air of the van. Nothing condenses on sleeping bag fabric. Everything stays dry through the night. Cold air intake is not harmful. The body warms it as it passes through nasal passages. Some winter campers report sleeping better with cool air on their faces. It feels cleaner somehow, more awake even as you sleep. Preference develops through experience. You try one method for several nights, you notice how it feels, you try another approach, you compare. Eventually, you settle on what works for your body and your tolerance. Some need the warmth on their face to relax into sleep. The cold feels too alerting, too uncomfortable. They choose moisture management strategies instead, airing out bedding each morning, using vapor barriers, accepting some dampness as the cost of comfort. Others cannot sleep with anything covering their face. The enclosed feeling disturbs them. They would rather add layers elsewhere and leave their face free. They choose warmer hats, higher bag ratings, better insulation around the sleeping area. Partners sleeping together sometimes choose different approaches in the same space. One face tucked in, one face out, each finding their own version of comfort. The breathing question extends beyond just warmth and moisture. Some find that breathing cold air helps them stay asleep through the night. The coolness seems to prevent overheating. Others find it disrupts their rest, waking them periodically as the cold registers. There is no wrong answer here, only different bodies with different needs. What matters is recognizing the trade-offs, understanding that warming your face with your breath will dampen your bedding, knowing that keeping your face exposed means accepting cold skin. The choice becomes conscious rather than accidental. You decide what you are willing to exchange for what you want. Comfort takes different forms. What soothes one person alerts another. Winter nights in small spaces require these small decisions. Each one shapes the quality of rest. Together they build the experience of sleep in cold metal boxes. The breathing question has no universal solution. It has only your solution, discovered through attention and adjustment. Preparation begins before darkness falls completely. Winter campers develop evening routines. These are not elaborate rituals. They are practical sequences that prepare both space and body for the cold night ahead. The heating starts early, an hour before bed, sometimes more. The goal is to warm the entire space while you are still awake and active. The walls absorb heat. The bedding warms. The chill leaves the air. This is different from trying to warm a cold space after you are already tired. That approach feels like fighting the temperature. Starting early feels like cooperation with it. Hot drinks accompany the warming. Tea, broth, hot chocolate. The warmth enters from inside. Your core temperature rises slightly. The drink itself matters less than the heat it carries. Some do light movement, a few stretches, brief exercises, nothing strenuous, just enough to generate body heat before settling. The warmth stays with you as you slide into bed. The bed itself gets prepared while the space heats. Sleeping bags get fluffed. Down insulation regains its loft after being compressed all day. Blankets get arranged in the order they will be needed. Everything within reach. Some place hot water bottles in the foot of the sleeping bag. Boiled water in secure containers. The heat radiates into the bedding. By the time you climb in, the space is already warm. This borrowed warmth does not last all night, but it eases the transition. You enter a warm bed rather than heating a cold one with your body. The evening routine includes practical preparations for staying put. Water bottle nearby for drinking. Headlamp within reach. Pee bottle positioned for midnight use. That last item matters more than it seems. Getting out of warm bedding into cold air disrupts sleep completely. Opening doors lets heat escape and cold rush in. The body wakes fully. Getting back to sleep takes time. A designated bottle prevents this. The practice feels awkward at first. It becomes normal quickly. The alternative, broken sleep and heat loss, feels worse. Some keep snacks near the bed, not for hunger exactly, but eating generates body heat. If you wake cold in the middle of the night, a few bites can help without requiring you to leave the bedding. Nuts work well, dried fruit, things that require no preparation and create no mess in darkness. Bedtime itself comes earlier in winter. Long nights encourage it. Darkness falls by 5 or 6. The body responds to the absence of light. Sleepiness arrives sooner than it would in summer. Many winter campers sleep 9 or 10 hours, not from laziness, from alignment with natural rhythms. When darkness lasts 14 hours, sleep can expand to fill it. This longer, rest feels different from summer sleep, deeper somehow. The body seems to settle more completely. The final steps happen in sequence. Heat gets adjusted to nighttime settings. Some turn it down, some turn it off entirely, trusting insulation and bedding to hold warmth. Some set it to cycle on periodically. Lights go out, vents get checked. Open enough for air circulation, not so open that heat pours out. Everything gets secured that might shift or fall in the night. Then the settling in, the adjustment of layers, the finding of position, the body's gradual release into rest. These routines become automatic after repetition. You do not think through each step. The sequence simply happens. Your hands know which adjustments to make. Your body knows when it is ready. The routine itself becomes part of the comfort, familiar actions in familiar order. A bridge between waking and sleeping. Outside, the temperature continues to drop. Inside, the small space holds its warmth. The preparation is complete. What comes next is simply rest. The body in its cocoon of careful layers. The mind releasing the day. The long quiet of winter night beginning. Sleep does not arrive all at once. It comes gradually. The breathing slows. Thoughts drift. Awareness softens. And then you are asleep, warm enough in a metal box on a freezing night because you understood what would be needed and you provided it with care. The sounds of winter nights are different. Snow falling makes almost no noise at all. It creates silence rather than breaking it. In a van parked among trees or in an empty lot, you hear this silence as a presence. The world outside becomes muffled. Distant sounds fade. What remains is something close to complete quiet. This is often described as the best part of winter camping. The absence of sound becomes its own comfort. There are no insects, no voices from nearby campers, no traffic passing on warm weather roads now closed by snow. Just stillness and your own breathing, and sometimes the soft whisper of snow accumulating on the roof. Rain creates a different experience. When it falls on a metal roof, it becomes rhythm. Each drop adds to a pattern that fills the small space. This sound is consistent. It doesn't startle or vary much. It becomes white noise that makes sleep easier rather than harder. Many winter van dwellers say rain nights are their favorite. The drumming overhead creates a kind of cocoon. The metal amplifies the sound, just enough to be present without being overwhelming. Wind moves the vehicle slightly, not much, just enough to notice. A gentle rocking, like being on a boat at anchor. The van sways on its suspension. This motion is subtle. It happens slowly. For most people, it adds to comfort, rather than disturbing it. The body reads the movement as safe. The small space is being touched by weather, but not threatened by it. Heaters create their own soundscape. A diesel heater cycles on with a soft whoosh. Air moves through vents. The flame chamber makes a quiet hum. Then it shuts off when the temperature rises enough. This pattern repeats through the night. On, then off. Warmth, then pause. After a few nights, the sound becomes familiar. It turns into part of the background. Some people say they wake up if the heater doesn't start when expected. The rhythm becomes that ingrained. Propane heaters are quieter. They produce a barely audible hiss. The sound is steady rather than cycling. It sits at the edge of hearing. What you notice more is the quality of air movement around the flame. A gentle circulation, warmth spreading without announcement. Wood stoves crackle and pop. The sounds are irregular. A log settling. Sap pockets bursting. The metal body of the stove ticking as it expands with heat. These are active sounds, but not jarring ones. They signal warmth and safety. By the time sleep arrives, the fire has usually died to coals. The crackling stops. What remains is radiant heat and quiet. In the deep cold of snowy nights, some winter campers report hearing their own heartbeat. The silence outside is that complete. The insulation and closed space create enough quiet for internal sounds to become audible. This is not disturbing. It becomes meditative. The steady pulse, the slow breathing. The body's presence in the small, warm space. There are almost no sudden sounds. Winter nights lack the sharp noises that break summer sleep. No car doors slamming. No animals rustling through brush. No sudden rain squalls. Everything that happens slowly. Snow accumulates gradually. Wind builds and fades. Temperature drops in steady increments. The soundscape matches this pace. Silence is not the same as emptiness. The quiet of a winter night in a van feels full rather than absent. It holds the muffled presence of snow, the awareness of cold outside, the gentle sounds of the heating system, the rhythm of breathing. All of this together creates an atmosphere that supports sleep rather than interrupting it. Many winter campers describe these nights as the most restful they experience. The darkness comes early. The sounds are minimal and rhythmic. The small space feels protected. The combination creates conditions that align with deep sleep. The body settles. The mind quiets. Hours pass without waking. This is what winter nights sound like from inside a small space. Not silence exactly, but something close. A soft acoustic environment where rest comes easily and stays. The air inside is cool on your face, not cold, not uncomfortable, just cool enough to feel. Your nose stays outside the bedding. The air you breathe is crisp. It carries a slight chill. This sensation is part of what makes the warmth of the bedding feel deeper. The contrast matters. Cool air, warm body. The boundary between them is where comfort lives. Below your chin, everything is warm. Layers of bedding hold heat close. Your core temperature stays steady. Your limbs stay comfortable, but your face remains in contact with the ambient air of the van. Most people find this balance ideal. Too warm everywhere and sleep becomes restless. Cool air on the face while the body stays warm creates the temperature that invites deep rest. The darkness is complete. Winter nights in vans offer a kind of darkness rarely found in homes. No light seeps under doors. No street lights filter through curtains. The windows are covered with insulation or dark fabric. What little light exists comes from outside, moonlight on snow perhaps, or the dim glow of a heater's pilot light. Otherwise, the The space is black. This darkness supports sleep. The body reads it as night without question. There are no visual distractions, no glowing screens unless you introduce them, no ambient light pollution, just darkness that stays consistent through long winter nights. Many winter campers report sleeping longer in this environment. The body follows older patterns when darkness is this complete. Frost patterns form on the inside edges of windows, where insulation doesn't cover completely, or on the outside of window coverings. These patterns catch any available light. They create delicate geometry, ferns and fractals and branching lines. In moonlight or early dawn, they become something to watch, evidence of the cold outside, held at bay by thin layers of material and careful preparation. The sense of shelter feels pronounced. Outside is cold. Outside is weather. Outside is exposure. Inside is warm and dry and small enough to understand completely. Every surface is within reach. The space can be comprehended in a glance, even in darkness. This creates a feeling of control and safety that larger spaces don't provide. You can hear the cold, not the temperature itself, but what it does. The occasional creak of the vehicle's frame as metal contracts, the near silence that comes with frozen air, the absence of the small sounds that accompany warmer nights. Cold has a quality of stillness. That stillness is audible. When wind moves across the van, you feel it slightly, a gentle pressure, a sense of movement in the air around the vehicle. The wind doesn't penetrate, but its presence is known. This creates connection to what's happening outside without exposure to it. You're aware of weather without experiencing it directly. The smell inside is distinct. Wool from bedding. A faint trace of propane if you've used a heater. The clean smell of cold air, sometimes the scent of wood smoke if a stove has been burning. These smells are simple. They don't include the complexity of larger living spaces, no cooking smells lingering from other rooms, no household products, just the immediate materials of sleep and warmth. Time moves differently in this darkness. Without visual cues, without routine sounds from outside, the night becomes a single unbroken unit. Hours pass without awareness. Sleep comes easily and stays. When you wake briefly, there's no way to judge how long you've slept unless you check a clock. The darkness gives no indication. This timelessness adds to the quality of rest. Your breath creates small clouds of vapor. You can't see them in the darkness, but you feel the moisture. Each exhale adds humidity to the air. This is why ventilation matters. But the sensation itself is not unpleasant. It's evidence of the temperature difference, warm lungs meeting cool air. The vapor dissipates quickly in the small space. Everything needed is within arm's reach. Water bottle, flashlight, an extra layer if the night grows colder than expected. This proximity creates ease. There's no searching, no getting up, no leaving the warm cocoon of bedding. The small space becomes efficient in darkness. The sound of your own breathing becomes noticeable, slow and steady. The rhythm that accompanies sleep. In the quiet of a winter night with no competing sounds, this rhythm becomes almost meditative. The body's most basic function, made audible by silence. This is what winter nights feel like from inside a van. Cool air on your face, warmth everywhere else. Complete darkness. The awareness of cold outside and warmth within. The sounds of your own body and the weather beyond thin walls. The compressed space holding comfort against the season. Sleep arriving easily and staying deep. The hours of darkness becoming restoration. Morning still far away. For now, just this, the small shelter, the gathered warmth, the long, quiet night. The night passes. Morning arrives differently here. You wake to cold air on your face. The rest of your body remains warm beneath layers of bedding. Your breath clouds in the dim light. This is the coldest moment of the day. In a well-insulated van, the walls show nothing. No frost, no ice patterns. The night's warmth and the barrier between inside and outside have held. In a van with less insulation, Frost covers the interior walls. Delicate crystals catch the early light. They tell the story of the night, where warmth escaped, where cold pressed inward, where breath and body heat met freezing metal. The heater has been off for hours. The temperature inside has dropped, not to outside cold, but closer than it was at midnight. You stay in the bedding. There is no reason to leave it yet. A hand reaches out, finds the heater control, presses the button or turns the dial. The diesel heater begins its familiar cycle. The gentle whoosh returns. Warm air starts moving through the small space, or a propane heater clicks to life. The catalytic glow begins again. Or you remain still, accepting that warmth will come slowly from movement and morning tasks rather than mechanical heat. The morning routine becomes deliberate. There is no rushing. Cold encourages slowness. You wait in the bedding while heat begins its work. 5 minutes, 10. The air temperature climbs degree by degree. When you finally emerge, you move quickly to put on layers, wool socks, base layers, a thick sweater. The clothing you remove before sleep now returns. The first task is often the same: water for coffee or tea. In winter, this simple act requires more thought. Water bottles kept inside sleeping bags emerge still liquid. Water left in containers overnight might be frozen solid. Some campers learn to keep only what they need for morning inside their bedding. Others wrap water jugs in insulation and hope. The small stove or kettle comes out. Water goes on to heat. You wait, hands wrapped around the warming vessel. This preparation becomes meditative. The small space, the simple tasks, the slow warming of both water and air. While you wait, you might wipe condensation from windows. In winter vans, moisture appears even in well-managed spaces. Breath through the night. The steam from cooking, body heat meeting cold surfaces. A cloth moves across glass, clearing fog and droplets. Some mornings, if the van was very cold, this moisture has frozen into ice on the inside of windows. You scrape it away, or wait for rising temperature to melt it. The bedding you left needs attention. Sleeping bags or blankets often hold moisture from the night, not soaked but damp from hours of body heat, in an enclosed space. When temperature allows, you open a vent or crack a window. Cold, fresh air enters. It seems counterintuitive, but the exchange matters. Humid air needs to leave. Dry air, even cold, prevents the dampness that makes everything feel colder. The coffee or tea finishes heating. I pour it into a cup and wrap your hands around it. This moment, hot drink, warming space, morning light growing stronger. This is what many winter campers describe as the best part of the day. Outside, the world continues its winter work. Snow might still fall. Wind might still blow. Temperature might still hover far below freezing. Inside, warmth returns. Not all at once. Gradually, earned. Water behaves differently in winter vans. It becomes something to manage, not just use. The condensation appears every night. Breath carries moisture, 200 breaths per hour, every hour of sleep. That water has to go somewhere. In a warm van meeting cold walls, it becomes droplets. They form on windows first, then metal surfaces, then anywhere temperature drops below the dew point. In a very cold van, it becomes frost, ice crystals growing inward, beautiful and problematic in equal measure. This moisture must be addressed, not once, but daily. It is part of the rhythm of winter dwelling. Morning wiping becomes routine. A dedicated cloth, sometimes several. You move through the space, drying surfaces, wringing out the cloth, continuing. Some of this water you simply remove. Some you try to prevent. Ventilation is the primary tool. It seems wrong to let cold air in when you have worked so hard to create warmth, but still air, humid air, becomes the enemy. Even a small vent, cracked open through the night, allows moisture to escape. The coldest, dampest air drops and flows out. Drier air, even if cold, enters. Many winter vans run their heaters and their vents simultaneously. The heater works slightly harder. The temperature drops slightly lower, but the space stays drier, and dry cold is more comfortable than damp cold. Cooking adds complexity. A pot of boiling water releases its moisture into the air. A simple dinner can add as much moisture as hours of breathing. Some cook outside when weather permits. Others cook quickly with lids on, then ventilate thoroughly. Others accept the moisture and increase their wiping routine. Wet clothes and gear compound the problem. Snow melts off boots, damp jackets hang to dry. Each item releases its moisture into the limited air. The most careful winter campers create a protocol. Wet items stay in a specific area, near ventilation, never near sleeping spaces. Some keep a separate bag for damp things, sealed until they can be dried outside or fully aired out. Drinking water itself becomes a calculation. How much to keep inside, protected from freezing? How much can stay outside, accepted as ice to be melted when needed? Many keep a single bottle in the sleeping bag, one guaranteed source of liquid water for morning or midnight thirst. The rest stays in containers, sometimes insulated, sometimes frozen solid. Frozen water is not a disaster. It is simply water you cannot access yet. Melting it becomes part of morning routine. Containers brought inside, placed near heat, waiting their turn. Some winter campers embrace frozen water storage. Blocks of ice take up less space and cannot spill. When needed, they melt what they require. Wastewater complicates things further. A dish-washed water to dispose of. In summer, you pour it out. In winter, it might freeze in your container or create an ice slick where you dump it. Gray water systems must be managed or emptied constantly. Many winter campers minimize water use. Careful washing, dry wiping, snow for initial cleaning. Weather itself shapes every decision. Snow is quiet and insulating. A van covered in snow is a van with an extra layer of protection. Falling snow dampens sound and creates profound peace. Rain is louder and wetter. It drums on metal roofs, soothing, but it brings more moisture, more challenges with ventilation and drying. Wind rocks the van gently. On very strong nights, noticeably, most find the movement comforting, like being rocked to sleep. Some find it unsettling at first, then grow accustomed. Extreme cold, the deep nights below zero, requires everything working correctly. Insulation, heat, moisture control, enough fuel, functioning batteries. There is less margin for error, but those nights, when everything does work, when you have prepared correctly, offer a particular satisfaction. Outside, the weather presses close. Inside, you have created a small climate, managed the water, controlled the temperature, kept yourself dry and warm. This is the ongoing work, not dramatic, not once. Daily attention to the small systems that make winter dwelling possible. Cold changes batteries. The chemistry slows. Capacity drops. A battery that provides full power at room temperature delivers half that at freezing. Below zero, even less. Van dwellers learn this early. The first cold night reveals it. Lights dim faster than expected. Heaters draw harder. Morning comes with less reserve than anticipated. Batteries supply the quiet essentials. LED lights, the diesel heater's control board and fan. Phone charging, the small refrigerator that runs through winter. Water pump. Some power a laptop. Everything depends on batteries maintaining charge through long, cold nights. Lithium batteries handle cold better than lead acid, but still suffer. Some systems include heating pads, small warmers that keep battery cells above critical thresholds. These draw power to preserve power. The math works when temperatures drop low enough. Others insulate battery boxes, foam panels, reflective barriers. Enclosed spaces that trap residual warmth from charging cycles. Batteries mounted inside the living space rather than underneath benefit from cabin heat. Cold weather dwellers adjust their power budget. They use less at night. Lights go off earlier. Devices charge during the day when sun hits solar panels and temperatures rise. The evening becomes darker, quieter, simpler. Solar panels produce less in winter. Shorter days, lower sun angles, snow covering panels. Many winter campers accept they cannot generate enough to sustain themselves. They drive more frequently to charge through the alternator. Some seek electrical hookups every few days. The diesel heater remains the largest nighttime draw. Its fan runs continuously. Its control board maintains set temperature. Together they pull 2 to 3 amps through a cold night. A 100-amp battery bank provides 3 nights before recharging becomes necessary. More insulation means less heater run time, means longer battery life. Some carry backup batteries, portable power stations, extra capacity that extends time between charges. Others reduce dependence, switching to propane heat that requires no power, using headlamps instead of overhead lights, accepting colder nights to preserve electrical reserves. The cold demands planning, knowing capacity, monitoring voltage. Understanding that numbers displayed at night don't reflect true remaining power. Morning reveals actual state of charge as batteries warm and voltage stabilizes. Winter dwellers develop routines around power, checking levels before sleep, ensuring enough remains for the heater to run until dawn, keeping a flashlight that needs no battery, accepting occasional cold nights when systems need rest. Two bodies change the equation. Shared warmth accumulates in small spaces. Partners sleeping together in insulated vans report interior temperatures several degrees higher than solo dwellers achieve with identical setups. Each person generates heat constantly, roughly 100 watts. A human space heater running all night. In a tiny insulated van, this matters. 2 people produce 200 watts. The space warms from their presence alone. Bedding traps this warmth. Bodies close together reduce the volume, needing heating. Less Conggen means concentrated warmth. Couples often run heaters lower or turn them off entirely once asleep, sustained by combined body heat through the night. Dogs provide similar benefit. A large dog generates significant warmth. Many winter van dwellers credit their dogs with making cold nights comfortable. The animal curls against them. Heat transfers. Comfort increases. Small dogs help less but still contribute. Even a 15-pound dog adds warmth in a small space. Their presence changes the cold, from isolating to companionable. Cats adapt well to van life. They seek warmest spots naturally, curl into sleeping bags, press against bodies. Their warmth is modest, but their company valued. Partners develop cold weather sleep systems together. They learn who runs warmer, who needs more coverage, how to share bedding without creating gaps where cold enters, the logistics of 2 people moving through night in confined space. Some couples sleep in one sleeping bag rated for 2. Others layer individual bags. Many use traditional bedding, quilts and blankets that accommodate 2 bodies more easily than mummy-style bags designed for 1. Morning routines shift with 2 people. One can start the heater, make hot water, warm the space while the other remains in bed. This luxury of coordination makes winter mornings gentler. Solo dwellers sometimes feel the cold more keenly, not just physically but psychologically. The cold becomes more present when faced alone. Though many solo winter campers report deep satisfaction in their solitude, they acknowledge the warmth partnership would provide. Body heat represents free, reliable warmth. It never runs out, requires no fuel, fails only if the person does. In the mathematics of winter van dwelling, companionship, human or animal, materially improves the thermal equation. The approach changes with the landscape. What works in New Mexico's high desert fails in Oregon's wet coast. What sustains comfort in Colorado mountains proves unnecessary in Tennessee valleys. Winter takes different forms across regions. The knowledge adapts accordingly. In the Southwest, the challenge isn't deep cold, but dramatic temperature swings. Days reach 60 degrees. Nights drop below 20. The air stays dry. Condensation rarely forms. Insulation matters less than ventilation control. Windows open during warm afternoons. They seal before sunset. Solar panels work through winter. Clear skies allow passive warming by day. Those same skies radiate heat away at night. Propane lasts longer here. Battery systems stay warmer. Water rarely freezes during daylight hours. The Pacific Northwest presents opposite conditions. Temperature stays moderate, rarely below 20, rarely above 40, but moisture saturates everything. Rain falls constantly. Fog settles for days. Condensation becomes the primary challenge. Ventilation remains essential even in freezing weather. Mildew threatens fabric and bedding. Diesel heaters run frequently. Their dry heat combats dampness as much as cold. Solar panels produce little power. Cloudy weeks require careful electricity management. Water doesn't freeze, but everything stays damp. Mountain regions demand respect. Cold arrives early and stays late. Snow accumulates for months. Roads close unexpectedly. Temperatures drop to 0 and below. Serious insulation becomes necessary. Diesel heat runs continuously. Propane depletes rapidly. Battery systems require protection from extreme cold. Four-wheel drive and winter tires aren't optional, but the rewards match the demands. Clear air, silent snowfall, unmatched beauty. The Northeast combines challenges. Cold rivals mountain regions, moisture approaches coastal levels, ice forms on everything, roads require constant navigation. Short days limit solar collection, long nights consume battery reserves. Yet communities of winter dwellers persist. Knowledge accumulates through shared experience. Local wisdom proves essential. They come back each winter, despite the challenges, despite easier options. Something draws them to cold nights in small spaces. The coziness feels earned, not given freely by thermostats and insulated walls. Built deliberately through preparation and knowledge. The warmth glowing inside a van while snow falls outside represents something accomplished, comfort created rather than purchased. Life simplifies. Winter forces it. Fewer places to go. Longer nights require earlier rest. The small space holds only essentials. Everything unnecessary falls away. What remains proves sufficient. Often more than sufficient. The connection to seasons becomes tangible. Weather isn't something watched through windows. It surrounds the thin walls. Temperature changes register immediately. Storms arrive as events, not inconveniences. Clear cold nights reveal stars invisible from cities. Sunrise becomes a daily event rather than background occurrence. Sleep arrives differently. Many winter van dwellers report resting better than in houses. The combination of factors aligns. Complete darkness, white noise from heaters or rain, cool fresh air, physical tiredness from outdoor activity, the profound quiet of winter nights. Bodies settle into natural rhythms. The satisfaction persists through challenges. Successfully staying warm through a 0-degree night brings quiet pride. Waking comfortable after heavy snowfall confirms system reliability. Each season adds knowledge. Skills develop. Confidence grows. They return because winter reveals something houses conceal. That comfort and rest don't require permanence or size. That the body needs less than the mind assumes. That small spaces during long, cold nights offer their own form of abundance. The metal box glowing warmly against winter darkness becomes home in the deepest sense, not despite the cold, because of it. Everything comes together in the hours before sleep. The heater runs its quiet cycle. The bedding lies ready in layers. The space has been warmed, then allowed to settle into that cool but comfortable temperature where rest comes easiest. Outside, winter continues, wind or snow or the deep silence of frozen air. Inside, the van or camper has become what it needed to be, a shelter, a bedroom, a place where sleep is not just possible, but deep. The rhythm is always the same. Heat the space, prepare the bed, change into sleep layers, turn off lights except one small reading lamp, climb into the cocoon of insulation and down. Let the body warm the immediate space around it. Feel the cool air on the face. Listen to the familiar sounds. Heater cycling, rain on metal, wind rocking gently, or the profound quiet of snowfall. This is not sleeping despite the cold. It is sleeping within it, surrounded by it, sheltered from it. The metal shell that seemed impossible in autumn has been transformed through layers of wool and foam, through small flames or electric heat. Through routines learned and practiced, the cold remains outside, but it no longer reaches in. The rhythm creates itself night after night. Bodies learn when to rest. Spaces hold their warmth. Morning will come with frost and visible breath, but that is hours away. For now, there is only this: darkness, shelter, quiet, and the slow descent into sleep that cold nights make deeper. A winter night. Snow falling outside a small van parked beneath trees. Inside, a soft glow fades as the last light goes out. The heater cycles once more, then rests. Someone breathes slowly in layers of warmth, face cool in dark air. The metal shell holds what it has learned to hold, not heat alone, but the conditions for rest. This is how people sleep in vans and campers when temperatures fall below freezing. Through preparation and layers, through routines and rhythms, through understanding what the body needs and creating it carefully in small spaces. The comfort is earned, but it is real. And in the morning, the first light will touch frost on windows, and another winter day will begin.